against women. Firstly, I think we need to look at what is the sort of work that women do. And some of the first things that you can see, and I think this is pretty much the case around the world, not just in South Africa, is that women's rate of unemployment is very much higher than men's. So as long as that happens, you're going to keep women dependent on men. And the second reason why you're also going to keep them dependent on men is that they earn less. So I'm just going to give you some figures from Statistics South Africa comparing income and earnings of employed men versus employed women. So this is the data we've got is for 2011, but since Stats SA just told us last week that we've actually gone back to a situation as bad as 2011, this data unfortunately remains current. So in 2011, the proportion of women who earned 1,000 rand or less a month was double the proportion of men who earned at this level. So roughly 21% of women who were employed in 2011 were earning 1,000 rand or less. So roughly 1 in 5. As opposed to just on 10% of men. So 1 in 5 women, 1 in 10 men earning less than 1,000 rand a month. If we start talking about who's earning 16,000 rand more a month, then this figure swaps around completely. You have 11% of men earning more than 16,000 rand a month versus 5% of women. So you can see with that kind of imbalance how it can only keep women economically dependent. I think the other thing that we need to be thinking about is what is the sort of work that women do, because that also contributes to why they're earning so much less than men. And here, the category of worker I want to look at is one of the categories of workers who are created by the problem of violence against women. And that is the women who provide rape counseling, who run shelters, who provide other kinds of domestic violence assistance. I mean, what they're doing is, and you've used the words earlier today, they're doing care work. This is paid care work as opposed to the unpaid care work that you're performing at home. I think it's very useful for us to have a look at what does paid care work earn in South Africa. And the reason this question is so important is because so many women are engaged in care work. Again, using Stats SA data, 43.6% of women versus 19% of men, so more than double women, are employed within domestic worker and what we call community, social and personal services sector. It's the biggest category of employment of women. More than double women here. So we must look at, if we want to address the circumstances of women workers, we need to be looking at women who are performing some sort of social care work role. And I think we do have some research that suggests that women who do, if you do care work, you will get paid less than if you do more traditionally masculine work. So I'll give you an example. We'll take nurses. That's a very feminine occupation, and we'll compare them with engineers and architects. Very masculine combination, but both study the same amount of time. They both go to university for the same length of time. So this comparison looked at professional nurses, of whom 91% were female, and found that 56% earned above 6,000 rand a month, and 1% earned above 16,000 rand per month. If we compare that to professional engineers and architects, 92% male, their monthly income, now 56% of women were above 6,000, 65% of men are above 6,000, where 1% of the nurses were above 16,000. When it comes to the engineers, 36% were above 16,000. So what that tells us is that if you do this kind of caring work, which a lot of women are doing, that's one of the reasons why you are going to be earning less than men. So we've also got to pay and value this kind of work more. So one of the ways in which Parliament can address this, and here I want to use the example of going back to women who work in shelters and who do post-rape care services, is that if we look at how government in South Africa supports these workers, it's through subsidies to non-profit organizations. I'm doing some research at the moment, so these are figures that come from NGOs who are providing shelters and who are running post-rape services. And I must say, different provinces pay differently. But on average, we found that house mothers, these are the women who stay in shelters on a 24-hour basis, who are there to see that everything goes right, called house mothers. The subsidy they receive is 2,500 rand per month. If some of the subsidies are those who work in the Tutuzela care centers who provide post-rape care, so if you come in after you've been raped, you need to be examined, you need post-exposure prophylaxis. The subsidy that they receive is 1,250 rand a month. And just to put that in perspective, and this is where I think Parliament needs to play a very important role, is in 2016, the minimum wage for farm workers was 2,700 rand. So what this tells us is that the caring work of looking after women or assisting women after violence, we don't consider to be valuable. We consider it to be less valuable than farm work. So I want to throw this challenge out to you as parliamentarians, is to engage with the report by the Minimum Wage Panel. Because their recommendation was that the minimum wage should be set at 3,500 rand. So as you can see, the figures I'm giving you being paid to women who work in domestic violence shelters and in post-rape services is well below the minimum wage. And one of the things that the Minimum Wage Panel recommended was that there needs to be...
Could you try to wrap up now, please?
Wrapping up.
Thank
was
you.
that the expert panel, that there should actually be a panel set up to look at the wages and working conditions of women who are doing care work. And I think for you as parliamentarians, that is something that you can push for. That is something that you have oversight over. And I would strongly recommend that that's something that you do. The other thing that you could do is that the triple BEE codes mainly reward companies for giving money to education work. So for you as parliamentarians, one of the things you can do is challenge the Department of Trade and Industry to ensure that they give companies recognition if they start giving funding towards work that addresses violence against women, because they won't give it otherwise. So that would be something else that you could consider. So I think just in conclusion, one of the things that I think we would need to look at going forward is I've given some practical suggestions around how women, work, and economy and violence fit together. But I think we also need to start recognizing that there are different sorts of economy, and that there are two very specific kinds of feminized economies that we need to address when we talk about violence in women. The one is the sexual economy that women are in. And I use the word sexual economy because I think we can see from things like sexual harassment that women are being expected to use sex as a currency or as a way of trading, to get work, to get promotions, to get access to residences at universities, to get access into accommodation. So I think we need to understand our sexual economy, not just our financial economy, and understand our sexual economy and tackle that as well. And then the other economy that we also need to look at, which is also occupied by women, is this care economy I was talking about. Whether it's the unpaid economy that relies on women's unpaid work at home to look after children, or whether it's the underpaid care economy, where we rely, again, on paying women very badly in order to look after other people, whether they are rape survivors, older persons, people with disabilities, or children. So I challenge us to widen our understanding of economy to include that. Thank you.
Please give Lisa a round of applause. I was hesitant to stop her because the pearls of wisdom were just so valuable. But I want to endorse what she said, that those of us who are in Parliament or whichever legislature we are, we have to take the initiative to push really hard against sexual harassment, even within our own ranks. We cannot remain silent, because silence is violence, and this is something that perpetuates. The funding for NGOs in particular, the shelters, not good enough. We have to look at the way our budgets are allocated. They need to be sensitive, gender sensitive. And one last appeal, the queen bee syndrome. Let us not be the queen bees that want to sit right at the top and forget about the workers down below. That is our legacy. That is what we are here to do. So thank you for that. We've got very little time, but I'm going to allow 2 questions per person, and then we're going to move into the breakaway sessions where you can continue to ask questions and to interact. And if you should find that you have got burning issues, please write them down and let's have them so that we can follow up and give you answers and try to conclude this. All right, the first 2 hands for Minister Shabangu. Yes, madam. And 1 and 2. Sorry, next time. Just 2 questions for each of them. I'm sorry, we've run out of time. Please fire away.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Mine is not necessarily a question, but just a comment. I find it is very important that I join this discussion under the topic which is very hot for us women. harassment or sexual harassment of women is real. And at the workplace, when we say workplace, politics is not spared. What I want to say is, as women, we are going through hell, both at workplace and also in politics as well. To us as politicians, we take politics as our workplace. For example, in the political arena, in terms of political parties, some women are facing a lot of challenges. For one to become a candidate, you go through a lot of hell. And yet, we have got also our male counterparts who become candidates, but they don't go through that. Without wasting time, what I wanted to say is an agreement to say that as women, we really need to stand up together, united and fight so that we stop this selfish behavior from some men who would abuse women now and then for no apparent reason at all. As legislators, we have got power. We make laws. As women, even God entrusted women to give life. What it means is, if we voice out together and united, we are going to come up with something very tangible and stop this selfish behavior. I want to agree with the minister, and I know you are about to cut me, but what I wanted to say is, I want to agree that this conference is really very important, that it is giving us platform as women to talk about our issues, but it should not just go as a talk show. The Honorable Minister said that we have to take this as come up with resolutions and bring it to the SADC declaration for our leaders to agree on it. I want to add my voice on this one to say that it has to be done. Let us come up with action plans and also declarations, resolutions, so that our heads of states should adopt this and implement in our respective states in our continent. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I do have to cut you, but I'm sure everybody agrees with that. What we must not have is double standards, that it's okay for somebody to commit sexual abuse, but not so good for others. There should be one rule for everybody. There was a hand at the back. Yes, thank you. And please keep it short, less than a minute. I'm sorry I'm going to have to cut you because we have to move to our next session.
Thank you very much. Let me just start by commenting on what the minister have raised on the issue of the sexual harassment in the workplace. But my concern is the time taken, you know, the long time taken to deal with such cases. And also when looking at the annual reports or quarterly reports of the departments, there's no way such cases are being reported, you know. Cases that are usually reported are the cases of theft, corruption, and other cases, but not cases of sexual harassment. Then the second one is the issue of how do we deal with the withdrawal of cases in preference of material, like money, you know, and also the issue of the some of the subs officers who make a joke when women report such cases. Maybe you can just come up with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we've got the gist of that. Minister, would you like to respond briefly, but we can carry on afterwards in our breakaways. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just to say, I welcome what my sister said, that we go to many conferences and we resolve, but we don't give. Where are those resolutions going? We're also not saying they must go to the SADC, even the AU. They must go, including the CSW, if we can commit to say, we're going to take it up and we'll implement it. It must not just be another paper. For me, that's very, very important. And the issue of processes, I agree. The justice system, it's not just about sexual offenses. The justice system of each country, if you look at how the wheels are turning, they are so slow. It's worse with sexual harassment. I agree. What you are saying to us, maybe as South Africa, is that what the Minister of Police on his 6-point plan, we must look at the 6-point plan, how speedily and fast it can bring justice and closure to matters of sexual harassment, be it workplace or in society as a whole. Because indeed, that's why women tend to lose interest, because justice is not very fast. And also there's no certainty that you'll find closure in the matter. Just to add on that, it's also about looking at counseling. We also have to find a way of making sure that we have effective counseling for women who have been abused, be it in the workplace or in other places. I also want to endorse what Lisa said about looking at the workplace in the corporate world. How best are they doing that? As legislatures, it's important for us to start putting our heads and saying, how is corporate world performing? And I'm saying that because
Thank you,
we leave
Minister. Sorry, I'll
very-
have to stop you there.
Just one point, because it's very critical. We leave it to the corporate world to make its own destination, and therefore we become, what do you call it? Observers. So let's make sure what they come up with, it's correct, instead of saying they've done good things.
Thank you. And now from this side, 2 quick questions. Please, can I just make it short and sharp, and then a short and sharp reply so that we can move on. The lady in red, number 1, where I think I saw somebody over there. When I see your, okay, second bite. Yeah, just make it quick and snappy, please. Sorry to rush you, but we have lots more to say.
Okay, thank you very much. My question to the Minister, I heard you talking about the plans in place for the victims of sexual harassment. But then my question to you is that, do we have plans in place for the families and loved ones of survivors, because they too also experience indirect trauma, and many do not know how to provide effective support to the victims of sexual harassment? Thank you.
Makaule, Teta Kapsandli, inkosi.
Ngibonge lapho sihlalo. Ay okwami nje kuzobancane. Yilento ukuthi namhlanje ngoba nithe ilanga lethu. Lapho ngaphambili sinenkinga lazo ukuthi mangabe umuntu wesifazane ezofuna umsebenzi, ngabe komasipala, ngabe yipi leminyango kagovernment, lento siyenzeka kaningi. Abantu bethola abawuthola umsebenzi ngoba kufanele uze ulale nomuntu loqashayo. Bengizocela mina lapho ngaphambili ukuthi again isikhulumele nalezi imeya nalama council esinawo abantu besifazana agcwele komasipala ukuthi akezama ukusilwela ngoba abantu abaningi masihamba la emphakathini kunento eyi1 ekukhala ngayo ukuthi umsebenzi asitholi kufuneka silale nabo. Nalena ke yala ukuthi egcekeni mangabe ubaba noma isihlobo esithile ngenxa yokuthi nje sifaka ukudla ekhaya, sekufanele lapho umama athule alokho ethi inkosi izophendula ukuthi ezinye inkinga la esingaso isenza kanjani ukuthi nisisize kuzona.
Mama inkosi, could we have a quick translation of that, please? The lady behind you, thank you. Sorry, yes, Lisa, can you...
Through you, Chair, the issue Ms. Kaula was raising was that she's very happy that today we're meeting here as women. One of the issues that we need to raise relates to the issue of sexual harassment in the workplace, particularly where women, when they are looking for jobs, they will be made to sleep with the one who employs. So she says this issue must be dealt with.
Sir, your answer, thank you.
Okay, just on
Minister, I thought...
the issue of victim and the support. I think the issue of victims not governments, centers tend to provide support, because when a victim is traumatized, there tend to be family and close friends being traumatized. So when you go to shelters most of the time and victim empowerment centers, they are. And I will say one of our responsibility as public representatives is to make sure that those things do happen, because sometimes we think it's somebody else. Our responsibility as legislatures, it's also to do oversight on such facilities to make sure that the right thing happens.
So do you have anything to add?
I can give you the legal answer. In theory, and on paper, we know that what's on paper doesn't always work in practice. If somebody asks you for sex in exchange for a job, in terms of the Sexual Offences Act, you can actually charge them with rape. It does count as rape. However, in practice, we know that it's very, very difficult. So I think the sorts of things that women can do is, if there is an organization in the area, is to help them to lay charges of rape. The second is, if it's a company, if they can approach the manager or whoever is the owner of the company or the chair or whatever to say that this has happened. I mean, again, what I'm saying, I know it sounds very nice on paper, but it doesn't always work in practice. But that is their other option. It also, I think, depends on who is giving the work. If it's a company with headquarters in another city or another town, you can contact them to say, this is what is happening, this is what your staff are doing. If the workplace is unionized, you can go to the union rep or the shop steward in that area and say, this is what is happening. This person is asking to trade, is asking for me to give sex first before they will give me a job. So, I mean, those could be some of the options that you can do. But I think it's always a good idea is to be able to try, if you know this is happening to anyone, is to contact an organization like Lawyers for Human Rights or the Legal Resources Center or the others to ask for some help in order to try and take this on.
Thank you very much indeed. So we're now going to move away to the breakaway sessions. Those of you who want to continue the discussion on sexual harassment, please remain here in the NA chamber. Anybody who wants to follow up on the innovation, that is in E249. That's in that direction. But there are ushers to help you. And then technology will take place in the old assembly chamber. We don't have long now. We should finish that breakaway session just after 4:15 so that we come back for the plenary. So please move if you want to, and thank you for your participation. And remember, if you haven't had your questions answered, please write them down and let us have them, and we will try and get back to you on that. Thanks very much to our panelists for a good discussion. Thank you. Shall I repeat the venues? The NA Chamber, sexual harassment, you stay here. Innovation, you go to E249. And for technology, the old assembly chamber. It seems there's one subject that is all preoccupying us because nobody's moving. Make your choice, please. Thank you.
But it's not, is it on? Hello? No, they came yesterday, we welcomed them. Yes, they were given a slot, yes. No. Is it different people from the ones that were here? No, no, wait.
You know, and some of the economists don't think through what does this mean, practical purposes.
Exactly, you are so right. I agree. I only say
Yeah, exactly.
but you can't implement it.
No, we need to yes.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, honorable members. I don't know whether this is the commission, but I do realize that there are some people who are still socializing. Yes. Thank you very much. I think we are going to be dealing with one of the topics. Ours is violence against women and sexual harassment in the workplace. And we have to deal with the role of legislatures in fast-tracking progress. What we are expected to do is to identify the ways in which violence against women acts as an impediment to women's economic activity. Identify the key challenges in relation to sexual harassment at places of work. Identify areas of legislative reform that will assist in addressing both violence against women and sexual harassment. And the last one is identify the key areas of oversight for Parliament in addressing both violence against women and sexual harassment. So a lot has been said about this already. The minister just spoke about what we should be doing as legislatures in our constituency period. And I think people will be having answers because people have dealt already with this issue. It's so prevalent that every woman is concerned about it, I think. Before we go further, I'm going to give you a chance to identify amongst yourselves a person who will be our rapporteur. Igama ngokushesha. We can give people who can volunteer first. Somebody said no. Who cannot know? Ukuthi sizokwazi ukukhawuleza, are there people, a person who wants to volunteer? Okay, and then let's choose one person then. I don't know who's at the back there, but, okay.
I want to nominate the Speaker of Free State, Comrade Mamik, to be the rapporteur. Mr. Chair of.
Okay. There's a name of the Speaker of Free State. I don't know where is Free State here. Here. Free State. Oh, give Free State here, Antimo. How? I thought it was Ngengwe. Oh. And can you give me a chance to chair, please? A seconder? Yes. Honorable Rosina.
Thanks, Chair. I stand to second the proposal. Thanks.
Yeah, is there anyone who opposes? Makaula? Oh, igama likaBetty. uBetty singambona uthi ngubani? uBetty nangu ungathi uBetty uhappy ngale ndaba. So siza isekonda kaBetty ikhona. Hayi ke kucacile uthi mhlambe funeka sive idivision yalento. Asinawuthetha sonke sifuna umuntu ozawuthetha apha. So we are going to use all languages. I hope other people do understand what I'm saying. We are getting opinions from the people from the floor. Chief? Honorable Chief? Nanku, yes, us, with a green attire.
Thank you, Chairperson. I was proposing that Betty be a scribe for the sake of unity.
Oh, Betty be a scribe. Okay. Good for ni secondile lo ndawo? Okay. Yeah. All right. Betty, are you all right where you are? Please don't come to my seat. Okay, let's go on then. We have got questions to this item. As I've already well, yes, I really aspire to be a speaker, but angiyazi uthi makuthiwa sorry funeka ndithini. Your mic.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. No, I'm saying as women, we must encourage to work together.
Yeah.
We are saying that the speaker will be doing the reporting and they will be working together with Betty as a scribe. Thanks.
Yeah. Can I, it's not good to have a rowdy meeting. And Your status doesn't allow you people to do that. I just wanted to explain to you, we have got somebody who's going to be working with the rapporteur. She's seated here. She is going to be writing the report. She's going to work with the rapporteur. It's just simple, simple. There's nothing to fuss about. Are we all agreed? Okay, let's go on. The key questions to this are, I hope you note this down. What are the key challenges in addressing violence against women? The second one is, what are the key challenges in addressing sexual harassment in the workplace? And what are the key areas for legislative reform in this regard? What should Parliament prioritize in terms of oversight in this regard? You know, we have started at 4:45. Now already we have 25 minutes. So whatever we're doing, we are going to be completing everything within that time. Can we have the first speaker? What province is that? Can you tell us who you are?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Before we proceed, I missed the second and third question.
Oh.
Yeah, if maybe you can just repeat.
Okay, the
The
second.
province is Mpumalanga. Thank you.
Okay, the second question is identify the key challenges in relation to sexual harassment. No, sorry, I'm talking about something else. No, the questions are, the second one, what are the key challenges in addressing sexual harassment in the workplace? Have you got that? Sawusebenzisa lento babeyibiza shorthand kudala. Le bayenzayo xa benza ama-SMS. Are we all done now? Then we can start participating then. Is that Mpumalanga? No, what province is that?
Thank you, Chair. It's the Northern Cape.
Can we get the name, please?
Okay, no, I'll start.
Okay.
Okay. My name is Gladys Oliphant. I'm from the Northern Cape Legislature. Chair, I want to answer only two. The first one is the key challenge of
addressing violence against women.
Yeah, violence. Chair, I would suggest we must have a court where we get stats every year so that we must be able to see that is the violence going up or is the violence going down. And I would like also to second about the Northwest yesterday when they said police must be trained for emotional, the physical emotion of the people, whether that violence. Everything that must come together. I'm trying to be short. The second one is sexual harassment in the workplace is very serious. And always women is suffering out of that. Because sometimes the boss the manager take the man side and said, this woman is what. We always got names. Now, when we talk about sexual harassment, it must be a serious criminal case. People must see outside there that we are also being harassed in the workplace. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Northern Cape. I've got hands that were up already. It's 1, 2. Can we get number 3 from this side? 3. Kabila, Honorable Kabila. 4. Seychelles. Yes, I'm dreaming about Seychelles, you know. Mauritius, yes. For now, let us take those hands. Number one.
Thank you, Chair. Naxolo Abraham Dandiso, Eastern Cape Legislature. On the first question on violence against women, I think, Chair, we should reiterate what was proposed yesterday, that the issue of violence against women is an issue of power relations. And therefore, it is because of the perception that our society, which is patriarchal, has on women, that women easily become victims. And unfortunately, when this happens, the women are viewed, are seen as the weaker sex. And it is a perception that is there in the authorities, whether you go to the police station or you go to the families, the women are viewed as such. And therefore, there are always challenges when it comes to addressing issues of violence against women. The second one, on the issue of sexual harassment in the workplace, it's always a difficulty because sometimes the issue of sex for jobs, for example, is reported after the cause. And it is not always easy for the victim to come forward and say, indeed, the reason why I got the job is because I slept with the authorities. So the issue of sexual harassment in the workplace is quite sensitive and needs us as women's caucuses in the various legislatures to already, before the incident, have policies in place, because the experience that we have, for example, as an institution of the Eastern Cape, is that we grapple with the difficulty of sexual harassment at the workplace when it has happened. Policies have to be in place so that this can be avoided. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam. Can I ask people to be very brief and just give us your response and just give us the sense of what you want to say? You can elaborate, I think, at some stage, but I think most of these things were done even yesterday. Yes, number two. Yes, it's you. Unless you don't want to speak.
Hello, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, I didn't know where to switch it on. I will be very brief. First of all, just around the context of provincial legislatures, I'm interested to know which of the provincial legislatures
You
that are
didn't
present.
tell us who you are.
Oh, I beg your pardon. My name is Celeste, my surname is Barker, and I'm from the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature. So my first question is, which of the provincial legislatures present here today have actually got sexual harassment policies in place? The second question is, what happens in circumstances where victims of sexual harassment have been intimidated or they're just too frightened to speak up? Is there anyone in the room who's got policies around that? Thank you very much.
I don't know what you're saying, whether it is in relation to the questions that we've asked. Because I've given you 4 questions. I think people should contribute on those questions. Maybe you didn't hear. I'll repeat very quickly. The first question is, what are the key challenges in addressing violence against women? What are the key challenges in addressing the sexual harassment in the workplace? What are the key areas for legislative reform in this regard? What should Parliament prioritize in terms of oversight in the regard? You have missed your opportunity. I'm going to the third person. Let us go and progress. Maybe you'll have another chance. Number 3. Who was number 3?
Good afternoon. I'm Nsidi Twane, a businesswoman and an ambassador for a Bay Hill Capital Investment Company. I'm going to number 2, where it says sexual harassment in the workplace. I think what is said for me is that as women, we sometimes entertain and enjoy this when it starts. And as soon as things go wrong, then we want to report. It's always said. It's always said. Because I strongly believe that's a training, the trainings that we do, is to say people must start working harder on self. Work harder on yourself so that you can easily report such things. You can easily pick up when things are wrong. You can easily report a message that you received. We get entertained by such things. So sexual harassment, let's tighten the policies. Let's tighten the individuals. We need to work harder on people in order for them to move forward. Because if I know who I am, I know my identity, you cannot just be moved by anything. Thank you.
Number 4, Kabila, is that you?
Thank you. I'll make it quick. I think I'm going to go straight to the challenges that are facing issues of sexual harassment. I think one, access to justice. I think for most countries, it's one thing to have something going wrong, but often we can't afford to hire a lawyer or to get representation, especially for rural women. And the second one is implementation. I think laws are being passed, but very little on implementation. We need to improve on that. And most of the employment acts guiding our employment are very outdated and do not speak to what is real. We need to update that. And then the unions, most of the works, given our colonial background, depend on how strong unions are. But in most employment places, unions are getting called out, and if they are there, they're unfortunately one of the most sexist places that are around in the world. I think there's need to interrogate unions as a voice for workers in terms of do they represent women as much as they're supposed to. Second, lastly, I think the issue of taking laws to the people. I think parliamentarians are doing a good job passing laws, but the laws tend to remain in these houses. They don't go to the people. We need to make women caucuses take laws, like in Malawi, we've managed to do that. It has been very successful. It allows people to engage a law in their own language and know that when someone slaps you, no one has a right to slap you or to say he slapped me a little bit. He doesn't have a right to touch you in any way. But we need to take the laws to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 5. Who was number 5? VP, is that you? Number 5. There was a number 5 somewhere. She went out, VP.
Thank you very much. I must say the first thing I would like to talk about is the key challenges in looking at violence against women. Women are protected by their constitutions, by our national constitutions, the supreme law. They have very good, I've looked at the constitutions of our SADC area and I've seen our countries have got very good provisions to protect women. The issue here is, do the victims know their rights? We need, as parliamentarians, as leaders, to take the information to the people. Let the people in the rural areas, in the grassroots, know what is their right. There is even further in our constitution in Zimbabwe, it says you can actually report about a next door who is being violated. You can actually stand for that person. So whether he's educated or she doesn't have capacity, you can actually, as a leader, you can stand in court to say, I saw it happening.
And so the issue of campaign awareness is very important. And then the other issue, the challenges of fragmented efforts. We need a multi-sectoral approach. Bring the churches, the religious leaders, bring the traditional leaders together with all MPs, caucuses, police, talk about these issues. Because as long as this one works going this direction, the police goes this direction, and then you will never be able to get to the root of the problem. And also, the other thing is we need to name and shame perpetrators. This is not happening at all. There's a lot of violence going on against women, and the perpetrators are not named and shamed. That needs to be done. I was happy when the Minister Shabangu, spoke about interministerial committee which they set up. It is important and critical to look at even public transport. That's where the violence, sexual harassment starts. There's a young girl, she gets onto the public transport, and already there are these people who are booing her, your short skirt or whatever. She loses her confidence. Already that's sexual harassment. By the time she gets to the workplace, she has lost her confidence. So these are the issues we have to look. Are our public systems in terms of transport conducive to build a strong woman? That's one thing I think. And
thank you.
Thank you. I have more,
I'm
but
going
it's
to
okay.
have
Thank you.
two hands from the province's side. I'm looking at the time. That is number 6 and number 7. What is, yes, which province is this? Let us try and take the heads that were up. That is 6, 7, 8. So I'm just going to give you an opportunity to speak for almost 1 minute.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Member. I think, Honorable Member, my name is Trudy Dijana from Western Cape. I think the first thing we must check, what is the cause of this sexual harassment is poverty and the high rate of unemployment. We must first also check on that issues. How are we going to empower the young women, the women, to be in that the minister of SMME? Let they work for themselves, not to be slaves of sex. And then the second issue, I think the other members have also alluded on the issue of our nurses. We must educate our women for their dignity. They must know we must educate them for their dignity and how to report sexual harassment, because some of them, they don't even know how must they report it to the police stations. I think we must do those things. Thank you.
Siyabulela, Western Cape. Mpumalanga?
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm Busi Shiba from Mpumalanga. I want to align myself with the challenge based on sexual harassment in the workplace. I think bureaucracy system that we are using, it's also a challenge because the time we're taking to deal with cases, like for instance, you will have your hearing, your CCMA, your arbitration, and one other thing is that there is a presiding officer that must preside over the case. If that presiding officer absent herself or himself to your case, then at the end, that woman may lose the case. What I want to propose is that some of the policies must be biased on issues of women, and also we must have a policy that will deal exactly, especially with the presiding officer, not to absent themselves when it comes to a hearing. Yeah, thank you very much. And also the issue of evidence, because at times they will want evidence. I'm proposing that we need to put surveillance cameras in a workplace so that they can also be provided as an evidence to us as women. Thank you.
Number, what was it, 7? You can prepare yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Mrs. Rajvansi and I'm from KZN. On the first one, on addressing violence, I think that we have to think about advocacy in this area, but we should be looking at the creation of more care NGOs and how we support them as legislators in Parliament, but also a think tank, on women and violence issues. Then when it comes to the workplace, here we've got a lot of laws, but I think that we've got to have much more regulations, and we have to have appeal mechanisms. If even men sometimes are wrongly accused, and we should have the appeal mechanism as a buy-in for men, but regulations, of course, to protect women who are looking for employment or are being harassed at the workplace. With the legislative reforms, I just wanted to bring to the attention of the National Assembly, and that was because the Justice Department addressed our Women's Caucus recently, and they said that, we had rushed through the human trafficking bill in 2013 prior to the elections, and we should actually look at it because there's a lot of gaps in that legislation.
Is that Gauteng? Is that Gauteng?
No, they addressed KZN, and they said that there were a lot of gaps.
Which province is that?
In KZN.
KZN.
Yeah. And so
Can you wrap up, please?
Yeah. Finally, on the oversight, I think that the lady mentioned transport, and we should look at our municipalities as an oversight area, because many countries are adopting something called pink transport. We should look at Ms. Vetten's challenges and strategies and try and adopt them.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry to do this, but time is against us.
Can I just add, Chair? Sorry. Here, it's one thing. It will just take a second.
Okay.
Can I be allowed to add?
You know what did I want to do? I want to give one opportunity to the person that now she's tweeting. Now, are you online? Are you aligned to one of the questions, maybe? I want to give you an opportunity just to speak according to the questions.
Thank you very much, Chair. I would be interested to know what the differences are between in the last 2 years of the statistics around gender-based violence in South Africa. I think Lisa did say they were consistent, they were equal. Thank you.
Mauritius.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My sincere apology, I had to rush to the bathroom. Madam Chair, one of the important aspects is employees' responsibility for addressing employers' responsibility for addressing employees' complaint for sexual harassment. It is very important that sexual harassment can occur in any combination of working relationship. It can be among employees or between employers and supervisors, but the employer himself has one of the basic obligation to their workers and has to provide a safe working environment free from discrimination and harassment. There are some policies, some key challenges, like the legal understanding. The employer has to know the written policies, the reporting steps, and even the liabilities and the investigation. All these policies has to be known by the employers himself and has to apply in case of sexual harassment in the workplace.
Thank you. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Chair. I will not take long.
And you are the last one.
Yes, I just wanted to add on the proposals. As legislature, I think we also need to come up with a legislation with a stiffer punishment for those perpetrators, maybe life in imprisonment and the other stiffer issues.
No, I'm not talking to you. You can continue. Somebody is intimidating.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to add that one because I didn't hear it coming out clear. Stiffer punishment Or
You mean from the questions?
yes,
What is that?
a legislation, as members of parliament in our continent, maybe we
They
should-
say, what are the key areas of legislative reform in this regard?
Mhm.
Maybe I think your question is quite relevant.
Yes.
Your
My contribution.
response, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I'm not going to allow you. I would very much like to do that. There are people who are monitoring me. We've got a rapporteur here. Can you speak? Can you speak? Yes. The rapporteur, has she got to report? Okay. And then you report, make your report. Covering everything, okay. The rapporteur, can you give us your report for this session? Have you covered that? Kuyasheshwa madala, kuyasheshwa. Besifuna abantu abakwazi ukushesha yiyo. I don't think Ms. Aungogola again. You must give us a report. Time is expired. Adifuni ma advice. No, Macron. Can you give us the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. The report will be then as follows. The rapporteur has made the notes, or the scribe has made the following notes, that we have actually divided our groups into 3, and we are focusing on these questions that we are having, the key challenges in addressing the violence against women, further identify key challenges in addressing sexual harassment in the workplace. We have further also identify areas of legislative reform and also what the parliament should address when dealing with these kind of issues in terms of the violences experienced by women. Now, the concerns are that there's little or no statistics at all in respect of violences that are meted out against women. Police are not being trained properly in dealing with these issues of violence against women. Sexual harassment in the workplace must be treated as serious criminal case, and it must carry serious penalties or criminal sanctions. Violence against women is an issue of power relations. Patriarchy and culture play a role in perpetuation of violence against women. Women are viewed as weak and vulnerable, and this is a challenge. The issue of sex for jobs is reported after it has happened or after the cause. It's not easy for victims to come forward and actually admit that they got a job on the basis of having had sex with their employers. Legislatures should have policies. Sorry, let me just get back there. Have I missed it? Go a bit up. Pardon, Chairperson. Legislatures should have policies in place aimed at addressing the sexual harassment before it actually happens so that it can be avoided. Provincial legislatures as well, with regard, they must have sexual harassment codes in place with regard to these offenses. What happens in instances where victims too are frightened to speak? How do we assist them? Sexual harassment, as women, we should not entertain, or we entertain and enjoy sexual harassment as soon as it starts, and when things go wrong, it's only then that we want it to stop. Women should learn to report this behavior right away. We must tighten policies and educate people, especially women, to value themselves, to minimize sexual harassment activities or acts. Challenges in addressing sexual harassment. We must also be able to access justice, especially for rural women. Implementation of policies and laws is important we must educate our rural women in that regard. We must have an update of policies and legislation. There's a need to interrogate union as the voice of women in the workplaces to make sure that they take laws to the people and create strong women caucuses, bureaucratic justice system, and which results in the delays in ensuring that these cases are taken care of. There are challenges in addressing violences against women. Victims do not know their rights. We must take the information to the people, especially people in rural areas and those at grassroots level. Fragmented efforts needs to be, there's a need for a multi-sectoral approach in involving religious and traditional leaders. Ensure as well that police and legislatures are also involved in these approaches and discussions. We need to name and shame perpetrators of these violent offenses. Interministerial committees also should address issues of violence in all areas of society, especially to ensure that they use public transport as well. The causes of sexual harassment are as follows. It may be as a result of poverty, result of high rate of unemployment, education to our women on their rights, such as the right to dignity and bodily integrity, as well as to report on instances of sexual harassment as and when they occur. Sexual harassment policies must be biased towards women, and surveillance cameras must be put in the workplace to minimize instances of sexual harassment. There must be creation of more care NGOs, and how we support them as legislatures in parliament is crucial. More regulation and appeal mechanisms need to be strengthened. Legislative reforms, they must be rushed through we must rush through women trafficking bill which was rushed through in 2013 because of lots of gaps in the legislation. We must look at municipalities as areas of oversight.
Can you wrap up?
Pardon, Chairman?
I said, can you wrap up?
Okay, I'm almost there. Sexual harassment, the employers must be obliged to address complaints in respect of sexual harassments that take place in the workplace. Legislation should be stiffer and perpetrators should be punished harshly. Thank you very much, Chairperson. That's all.
Thank you. That is our rapporteur. That's the report that she put together. And I really don't think there's any addition. I think she has even mentioned things that we didn't mention here. Yes. No, there's nothing wrong, because they're in line with what we were talking about. Yes. The only thing that we didn't elaborate more on is the challenge in addressing violence against women. Violence against women, not necessarily sexual at work, but it doesn't matter. The person who's going to do our report, she'll work on that. You must remember that we are going somewhere from here. And some people want to go and prepare themselves. Yeah, I thought you were keen to go there. So I thank you very much for your contribution. I think we have come to the end of this session. Thank you. What is the next step from here? Can you hold on? Can you hold on? Okay. The other commissions are coming back. The plenary is going to be done here. So you can sit wherever you are, you can go out, but come back again. Thank you very much. Makaula, abanye ababebephumile bazawubuya bazoripota sonke apha, my friend. Ungahlala lapho, ubufuna uye toilet kodwa ubuye sizawuripota sonke.
one? We finished in the old assembly. No, we are done too. Innovation, we were done long ago. No, sexual is the so the old assembly. We can start reporting with these ones. They will find us in.
Honorable members, thank you. We now resume our session. The commission that is not here will find us in progress. So can we start to have the report backs? 10 minutes each per rapporteur. We'll start with the group that was here to give us their report. Who was the rapporteur? You here?
Yes,
you can come to the podium. Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
okay.
Thank you. Can the people dealing with the protocol please call the group from the old assembly to please come back to the house for report back? And the group that was in E249, can they be ready also with their report? Ma'am, you can go. Yes, please.
Oh, down there.
Can you go there?
Okay.
I've never seen a scared fighter.
I'm not scared. I thought you were pointing at this one.
Order, order.
No, I'm not scared. I'm used to this podium, Honorable Chair. I'm not scared. Fighters are never scared.
10 minutes from now to 10 to 10. If you look at the watch in front, it will tell you when you go over.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Let me greet the House. My name is Betty Diale. I'm a member of legislature in the Northwest Province. The commission, our commission dealt with 4 issues that relates to sexual violence. These are the key questions that we focused on. The questions that we focused on was, what are the key challenges that we have in addressing violence against women? What are the key challenges that we're having in addressing the sexual harassment in the workplace? The key areas that the legislative reform must have in this regard, and what should Parliament prioritize in terms of oversight in this regard? Now, what we discussed as a commission was that the problem that we are facing is that there's little or no statistics whatsoever on the violence against women, and police are not properly trained to deal with these issues of violence against women. Sexual harassment in the workplace must be treated as a serious criminal case, and it must carry serious penalties or sanctions. Women are viewed as weak genders in all areas and are viewed as being vulnerable and in these challenges. The issue of sex for jobs is reported only after the cause, which is a problem. It's not easy for victims to come forward and admit that she got job as a result of that. Our women must be taught that they must report these incidents as and when they take place. The legislature should have policies in place that are aimed at addressing sexual harassment before they actually happen so that they can be avoided. Such acts should be avoided. Provincial legislatures as well, with sexual harassment codes must be in place, as well as the national parliament. What happens in instances where victims are too frightened to speak? Our victims must be taught. There must be roadshow to ensure that our victims are taught about their rights. Provincial legislatures must have, I've done this. Sexual harassment, women should learn to report the behavior or the type of these kind of behaviors right away. We must tighten the policies and educate our people, especially women, to value themselves and to ensure that we minimize sexual harassment cases or incidents. There are challenges in addressing sexual harassment because there is a problem of access to justice, especially for rural women. There must be implementation of policies. We must not just have policies and not ensure that they are implemented. Sorry. Better come and help. Just a minute, Honorable Chair. I'm just trying to get things right here. The laptop is. No, I don't know what happened here. It's not moving. There we go. Thank you. I'm fine. Thanks. We must make sure that we tighten the policy and ensure that we educate our women to value themselves to ensure that we minimize sexual harassment cases. We must ensure that our people have access to justice, our rural women, and ensure that there is implementation of our laws. We must update our policies and legislation to teach our people to protect themselves. There is a need to interrogate unions as well, so as they assist our people properly in their workplaces. We must take laws to our people and create strong women caucuses. Bureaucratic justice must also be there. There must be a system in place to avoid delays. The challenges in addressing violences against women, we must ensure that victims know their rights. They must take information to the people as parliamentarians, especially women at grassroots level. There must not be fragmented efforts. We must have a multi-sectoral approach where we involve religious and traditional leaders. The police must also be involved. Social workers must be involved, legislators as well. We need to name and shame perpetrators of these kind of atrocities. We must have interministerial committees to address issues of violence in all areas of society, and to make sure that we communicate this even in the use of public transports. So there must be sexual harassment policies which are biased towards women, and there must be surveillance cameras in the workplace to ensure that we minimize these incidents of sexual harassment. There must be creation of more NGOs and how we support them as legislators and parliamentarians. More regulation of and appeal mechanisms need to be strengthened. Legislative reforms, we must have laws that deals with human trafficking. We have a human trafficking bill which was just rushed through in 2013. Because there is a lot of gaps in that legislation, it must be properly reformed. We must also look into the oversights that we do as parliamentarians as well as municipalities. Sexual harassments, employers must be obliged to address these complaints of sexual harassment and ensure that they protect their employees. Legislation must be stiffer to ensure that there is punishments for perpetrators. I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Rapporteur. We'll take 5 minutes for discussion on this report. Are there any additions from the members who were part of this commission? Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Speaker. My name is Belinda Peterson. I'm from the Western Cape Legislative Koyensan Council. I would just like to say the abuse of power from woman to woman, that must also be added, because it's another thing when the abuse of power of a man is on a woman, but when a woman abuses her power also on a woman when it comes to sexual harassment, and I've got experience from that. Belinda Peterson versus Leonard Max. Way back I was the victim. Today I'm standing here as a survivor. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. Any other addition? Honourable Member.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It's Macy Kennedy standing here from Limpopo Legislature. We have many speakers. Speaker after speaker talked about the rural woman. And then the issue that we have overlooked is the issue of culture versus the real law. We have an issue in Limpopo where a woman was fined a gold because after the husband has beaten her pink and blue, she rushed to the police station instead of to the chief's crow. So coming back from the police station, she was a call to a chief's crow where she was fined a gold for jumping to the police station instead of first going to the chief's crawl. So I should think here public participation must go on and educate the chiefs and indunas at rural places. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There was one hand. I will now allow people who were not in the group, because those of you who were in session, what is the point of procedure? Certainly.
That's not happening.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I'm just allowing one person and then we're moving to those who are not in your group. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm Patricia Ngobeni from Mpumalanga Legislature. I just wanted to indicate that on the issue of the presiding officer within a particular court, let there be women, because in most cases, if there are men, they're the ones who are doing these things, so they absent themselves always. So then if there are women, they will understand what is happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Advocate?
Thank you very much, Chair. Just quickly, I don't want to sound very discouraging, but Namibia is independent. Let me give Namibia as an example. 27 years independent, and the first laws we passed in Namibia were gender-sensitive laws. The Domestic Violence Act, the Combating of Rape Act, the Married Persons Equality Act, and I can go on with the list. We had public hearings, we had reports, and in all fairness, everything that was said here, I've heard it 20 years ago. The problem that I'm faced with when I hear about violence against women is that 10 years later, we still talk about the same thing. We want more laws. We want more policies. Madam Chair, can't we say today that rather than look for more laws, what is it that we can practically do to make a difference in this issue of violence against women? 27 years in my country, I have been fighting violence against women, doing the right thing in terms of laws and policies, but still it is not getting less. What is it that we can do? Even just two very, very practical issues that we can drive forward from this conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a challenge. The last person, there was a lady there in blue. Okay, Ma.
Thank you, Chair. I think the fragmented work of the departments also makes it difficult for the violence against women. Because if the SEPs are doing their work, the justice is gonna fall. Or the correctional services. If those three departments can work together, I think we can have a better situation here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Kaula. You're the last on this one.
Ngibonge sihlalo. Enye into engafuna ukuthi la ke siphinde sigcizelele yilena esingazi singayenza kanjani ngoba bathi yamasiko. Le yokuthi ekhaya mangabe wena uganile kwashona umyeni wakho ufuna kuphoqeleke ngenkani ukuthi uthande omunye womndeni mawungenjalo kufuna kuhamba untante eintabeni uhlupheke naleyo ukuthi mangabe wena ugane inkosi kufanele la lenkosi le oganele nayo ihambe ikushiye la endlini ihambe itapa bonke abantu la ngaphandle wena ufuna kuhlale njengomama ngoba make wabuza ukwazi ukuthi yini ngempela kanti engihlalele kulomuzi akulambile awutholi nento oyizele la njengomama wekhaya sekuthiwa hamba kuyolanda inkomo ekhaya ezinye zezinto lezofuna sikhulume ngazo ngoba mangabe kuthiwa sikhuluma ngendlela esicindezeleke ngathi nabantu besifazane ziningi lendo ndaba endoda lokuthi ithatha unkosikazi njalo nje unkosikazi hayi nokuthi nonke lana niyondliwa wena usutshingwe lapha nabantwana usuyayibonela masuthi uyikhelela imfino ngaphandle usuyaxoshwa ezinto ufuna siyixoshe lapha ngiyabonga.
Thank you very much. What Mam Kaula was saying is that one of the things we need to emphasize is how we can address the issues of customs and tradition that still impact on women negatively. So she was also making an example of some of those that, for instance, if you are a married woman and your husband passes away, you get forced or compelled by tradition that you must be married by one of the family members. The other issue she was raising relates to polygamy. That one of the issues that is never looked at is the right, particularly of the first wife. That she first used the situation of a chief, but also generally men who decides to take polygamous, who wish to enter in polygamous relationship, that you get put here as a first wife and then the man starts getting number 2, number 3, and don't even look after all of you equally. And your conjugal rights get sacrificed in the process. Yeah. So she was saying that that is one of the issues when we talk about issues that impact on women negatively, we need to reflect on and see how we address this situation. I'm not sure whether the rapporteur or the chair of the group would want to come back, maybe just summarize on the issues that have been raised, or we can just take them as additions. No, Mama Sangvali, isikhathi. Okay, we will take those as additions for consideration by the conference in dealing with this issue of sexual harassment. Can we now move on to our second group that was in E249 dealing with innovation? Can we have our rapporteur to report? You have got 5 minutes. No. 5 minutes. I was in your group too, but 5 minutes.
You should be biased, Honorable Titis. No, thanks, Chair. Our commission was dealing with innovative ways of changing the world of work for women. And we started by looking about the imperatives that impede upon women's access to economic empowerment, identify challenges facing women in vulnerable sectors such as informal economy, domestic workers, farm workers, and sex workers. We also identify key barriers that impede upon creating gender-sensitive work environments. We also identified key areas of legislative review that will facilitate women's access to economic empowerment, as well as creating work environments that are conducive to women's strategic and practical gender needs. And the last one was to identify key areas of oversight for Parliament in this regard. Maybe I need to start by reporting on the barriers. We identified the lack of skill for development, capacity building, and networks for women as one of the impediments that impedes on women being actively involved into the economic sector. We also identified fronting as one of the key issues, because many a times we find that women are used as fronters at the real end that women are not the owners of those businesses, and at the end of the day, they don't even benefit from whatever profits that are from those businesses. We also identified the fact that older women are being excluded from opportunities. We also identified the lack of information about the legislation and policy protecting the women, especially rural women, domestic workers, and sex women and farm women. Because many times legislation is there, but there is nobody that is taking upon himself or herself to make sure that these women in the rural and farming communities understand those legislations that protect themselves. But we also said that there is a need for us to deal with the setup in the workplace, because many workplaces are still male-orientated, established. And maybe an example that one would give is that if you go to many workplaces, this issue was raised in the morning, that we don't have facilities for childcare, we don't have facilities where women will be able to breastfeed their children freely without any impediment. We also said that women often do not have decisions power over the money that they are making. They have to consult their partners in ensuring that how do they utilize the money that they have earned out of their businesses, especially male partners, not female partners. We also said that women need to be supported constantly in capacity building, and also we need to ensure that incubation periods for women are longer than the one that are given to any other person, especially to males. But we are also saying that the oversight part of the legislation must look into the bureaucratic red tape that impede on women to start their own businesses. Because in order for a woman to start a business, the process that the women follows rather than the process that is followed by men is far different. Then we came with few recommendations. We said that we need to increase oversight and scrutiny by members of parliament and legislatures, especially on budgets that are set by most departments of legislature of the government. And also the targets that they put there, do they speak to issues of women? And also the programs that they put there, do they really speak to women? But we must not speak about women issues when there is a Women Month. We must not speak about women issues when you start to say 16 days of activism for women, because it has to be 365 days of activism. We also need to have gender-responsive budget as imperative, and then we also have to have stringent monitoring and follow-up by members of both legislature and parliament. We need to have coaching and skill transfer amongst women in workplaces. We also have to have the resource facilities to be more accessible for women. But we are also saying we need to look into the legislation that we are having. Yes, the legislation is there, but if we look into the legislation, it's pro-men than women. For an example, if we go to issues of your domestic violence, the Maintenance Act and many other legislation, they don't speak clearly to issues of women. They don't actually address issues that women are facing day in, day out. But we are also saying that the government need to look into issues of the SOEs that are put there, your DTI. When women goes there to access funding and everything that is there, they will be sent from pillar to post rather than being assisted and understanding that when you deal with men, you are dealing with the nation, and when you empower women, you are actually dealing with inequality, you are actually dealing with poverty. Thank you, Chair. I hope that members of the Commission will be able to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there additions from the committee? Yes, ma'am. Yes, you can make your addition.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just in addition to the Commission, is that what we have said in terms of the oversight role of Parliament is that, even in legislatures, is that these companies or these private sectors, in terms of addressing issues of women, some of them don't comply. So what we do as the legislature or as Parliament, when we do oversight, we must make sure that they comply. And in making sure that they comply, we must make follow-ups, because at the end of the day, what we normally do is that go and make oversight, and after that we take resolutions, and we don't make follow-ups to make sure that that company or that particular sector is complying in terms of what we have said they must address. That was just the addition that I wanted to make.
Thank you. My sister there.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In addition, it's for these vulnerable sectors as well to have a growth plan or developmental plan for each and every worker, which would be monitored to enhance development and growth and specialization in each and every sector. For instance, a domestic worker, prior learning should be recognized so that it is developed along those sites, and a certificate recognizing that to be issued. If you are a domestic worker, for instance, you do the washing, you do the cooking, why don't we pick up what you excel in and recognize it and issue a certificate and develop yourself along such lines? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I take now from the broader group input? I've seen you, Belinda. I'm trying to look at other people who haven't spoken yet. Yes, my sister. Yes, you can speak. Please say who you are first.
Yes, thank you, Chair. My name is Gail Parker. I'm from the Northern Cape Legislature. Chair, I would want to propose that we seriously consider flexi time for women in all areas of work so that they will be able to fulfill their domestic responsibilities but also be productive in the areas of work.
Thank you. Any other taker? I'm coming to you, Belinda. I'm still taking others that haven't spoken. I've seen you. Belinda, seemingly nobody. Okay, before you, yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
My name is Mary Jansen, and I'm from the Khoisan community. I just want to highlight something in terms of you don't fit the profile. A few years back, a group of women from the rural area, a group of Khoisan women, addressed an issue around economic development. So they went to the provincial government to assist them with business. And the result was, you don't fit the profile. Number one, you are not historically disadvantaged. Number two, you are not part of the legislation. You don't have a constitutional accommodation in terms of the Khoisan is not recognized. So I would like this government just to address that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. That's very challenging. Honorable Belinda.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, unions are the biggest culprits. Unions must adhere to legislation in the workplace. If unions can listen to women, then I think the world would be a bigger place and a better place as well, because our voices are not heard within the workplace, because the unions are always on the side of the bosses when it comes to women. There's a lot of issues that we have. When we need to do something, we need unions to be on our side. And that is my 5 cents. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honourable Member, Deputy Speaker of Swaziland.
Thank you, Chair. If this point has been mentioned already, I just want to make an emphasis that
If you can lift your mic.
thank you, Chair. If my point has already been mentioned, I just want to make an emphasis that most of the entrepreneurs lack knowledge on this issue. The important part is that let us make sure that our entrepreneurs are trained properly on innovative issues, because you find that they are even unable to run their businesses properly because of lack of knowledge.
Thank you. Honorable Maseko.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just wanted to reassure ma'am from the Khoisan community that we have a bill before the Committee on Science and Technology on indigenous knowledge systems. And we've had public hearings, and the community, the Khoi and the Sons, and even going down to where they are, the Oldswarren and those participated a lot. That bill will be going, when we send it to the NCOP, it will be going to different provinces, and I would want you to participate there because it does recognize especially the knowledge from that community. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Is there any other addition? There being none? Oh, thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. I just wanted to add that the issue of unions, which I also raised earlier on, I think we've seen demonstrations in terms of inequalities in workplace, whatever. We've never seen a union take a stand because someone was sexually abused or somebody was treated wrongly. It's about time unions wore the face of a woman and understood that labor is a gendered issue. And if we don't include women in the complaints and the issues that we are willing to fight over, then it means we are not committed to labor as a women issue. Finally, wherever the condition of women has changed in the workplace, it has been followed by political will. It has been followed by the executive, parliament, judiciary joining hands. But I think when it comes to issues of sexual abuse, sex and the woman, we see a disconnect. Now people say those are issues that happen at home. Those are domestic issues. If you look at Rwanda, it keeps being repeated. I think this is a good place for us as women to say it's about time we saw presidencies, vice presidencies, whatever posts we can talk of, be defined on the state treating women as equal people, not as people who are guests or people who should apologize for their existence. This needs to stop, and it should become a main thing in the politics that we are doing. If someone wants to become a party, wants to lead, or someone wants to be president, whatever it is you want to be, first cornerstone, show us how you will change the lives of poor, uneducated rural women. That must become benchmark number one.
Thank you very much. I know this will be an interesting topic. I've seen your hands. I'm not taking them. I'm sorry. We're moving to the next topic. We'll still have almost 2 hours tomorrow for another plenary discussion, so you will still have time. Science and Technology team, rapporteur, can you please come to the podium?
Greetings. My name is Senamile Masango. I'm a nuclear physicist. I'm from the University of Western Cape. One of the issues... Okay, one of the issues that we have highlighted is that we should invest more on education, like we should have like the change of curriculum at the basis level and have more incubator programs that will cater for young girls, especially in rural disadvantaged communities. And again, the issue that we have in rural provinces, we should make sure that we bring science to the disadvantaged communities and have more bursaries on young women. And the other issue, again, that we have highlighted is that they can't access information. It will take like graduates who are from disadvantaged communities. What if they can gather together and maybe form an NPO or an NGO where they can go to those disadvantaged communities, of course, with the help of the government. And again, the technology is not something that we should be scared about. It must be introduced at an early age. What if we can work with the department as well of communication on this matter so that those young girls can access technology? Again, the issue, we must also partner with, government should partner with Vodacom and other industries to give back to the rural communities and make use of the internet. You can, in this time, most of the people, they are on social media. What if we can use social media as business wheel or whatever, marketing, something like that? Again, what if we can have a mobile library where people from disadvantaged communities can access internet, like maybe we'll have that mobile once a week or once a month, or identify one of the schools in the communities where government maybe will sponsor them with computers, because most of the things, they have been done online, like application of jobs, everything are now done online. Again, the issue of career guidance is also a problem. Career guidance should be introduced at primary level. Again, fighting with the attitude of saying some careers are for women and some careers are for men. Again, infrastructure is also a problem, including electricity. Without electricity, we cannot have innovation. We cannot have technology without electricity. Again, the infrastructure of science centers, it's also, what if we can have science centers in rural areas? And more learnership and internship on IT are also needed. And upskill educators, like what if we can have teachers' development programs in rural areas? The issue of languages is also a barrier. And another is one of the sisters shared that what if we can have computers that we translate into your own home language? There is also innovation linked with technology. We should also identify one of those that were in technology. We should also identify women that are in technology and where technology should be brought. We should have Wi-Fi in public institutions like malls, hospitals, police stations, so that everyone can access the internet. And resources, lack of resources are also a problem. It limits the lecturers from rural universities. We must also deal with the issue of intellectual property in the universities. E.g., let's say a student won an innovation competition, it should be shared, not that a student should be exploited. And again, rural universities, they don't have engineering. I can testify on that. I wanted to do engineering, but I couldn't. I ended up doing physics because rural universities, they don't cater for engineering. DTI need to assist women on businesses, and technologies changes as well. We need to adapt quickly. And again, we should encourage students after graduation to go for businesses instead of being job seekers. Thank you.
Thank you very much from our rapporteur. Are there any additions from that group? Wow. Can I now have comments from other groups which are not there? Honourable Member?
Thank you very much. I think what we are hearing now is that access to internet, access to social media has become almost, you can't be left behind. If you're left behind, you are nobody. The world has become a global village. It is coming in as a good weapon, or rather a tool for members of parliament. We, as a parliament, I'm also the chairperson of the Women Parliamentary Caucus of Zimbabwe, and we've made sure that all our women are trained to use their gadgets, the one we are carrying. This is a computer, and in most cases, we don't make use of what we pay for this. We pay a lot of money for these phones, and all what we do is maybe chat and go on the WhatsApp, but it can do a lot of things. It's a computer on its own. So we are training, it is critical that all members of parliament are trained to use the social media. It can also increase democratic interaction with your constituencies. I mean, the young people today, they actually feel very safe to interact with their representative if they're coming from your constituency without fear of favor. A lot of them, I interact with them and say, I feel very safe behind my desk to say what I think I should say. Otherwise, if I say it outside, I may be in trouble with the police or something like that. So the social media has become the in thing. I have a big constituency myself, and I'm busy all the time. I'm traveling as the vice president of SADC PF. But this social media makes me connect with my constituency corner to corner every evening. So social media, we can't run away from it. Even in terms of campaigning, as we go towards elections, this is the tool to use. Thank you.
Social media 24/7. Advocate.
Thank you, Chair. I got a bit excited when I heard issues of intellectual property, and I think it is something that we must take very, very seriously. I mean, how many women have come up with ideas, have come up with whatever, and then somebody just steal it away from them? Because they just don't have the courage or the capacity to sell and market and protect their idea. But something that also got me thinking is, you know, there is this concept of social entrepreneurship. Now, some of us, for the longest of time, because we had always been in public office, have always been scared about business. You know, money, the word money never appealed to some of us. We were just there getting a salary and maybe living your passion. But somebody said to me, why not do both? Why not use your entrepreneurial skills to solve a social problem? That is where our passion is. Let our passion make money. And let our passion also solve problems at the same time. Because I think there is this mentally, women are not very good at seeing themselves as making money. And it's something we must throw out there. But social entrepreneurship really is an area that is of great interest to me. And it's maybe something that we should also explore. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Member.
Thank you, Chair. Something just struck me as we were talking in our breakaway group, and that is that South Africa has the highest cost of broadband in the world. And I do believe that it is vital, if we're going to actually grow our economy into rural areas, that broadband is fast, efficient, and affordable for every single person. I think we should put our names behind that lobby for cheaper, more affordable broadband. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Member from the Eastern Cape. Ma'am.
Chairperson, is a general comment, you know. We are in government, Chairperson, and some of the women here are deployed in strategic positions. But Chairperson, we are also given huge budgets, but we don't prioritize women, Chairperson. More especially women in deep rural areas. I think that was one of the comments we made there. Please, we need to look on that because Chairperson, we need not to come here and sit and cry as if we are not part of the government. We are now part of the government. Important for us is to come and say here, what have we done with the budget that we have been given in ensuring that we better the standard of women in rural areas? Of course.
Thank you, ma'am. Belinda?
Thank you, Chair.
Belinda?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, we need to put food on the table. If we can use the science and technology to put food on the table, and right in front of me, Chair, I've got the antidote for that. I don't want to just complain, but I want to come with a solution as well. In front of me is the science and the technology that can cure people from cancer, from AIDS. But who can endorse this, Chair? Because the white people, they steal our indigenous knowledge, and then the Khoi and the San people cannot endorse it. Chair, I've got it here. I've got all of it here. But how can we put food on the table so that the people down on the grassroots level can eat? I'm sick and tired of this, Chair. Something needs to happen now.
Thank you, Belinda. You have got the chairperson of the Science and Technology Committee, Melindi Maseko. I'm sure you can have a discussion afterwards. Honorable Member, I've seen you, Jessie. I've seen Jessie from Malawi, yes, I've seen her.
Hello.
You have a fan, Jessie, here in this parliament. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Of course, this is mostly dependent on what, I didn't catch your name, the lady over there said about access to broadband and more cost-effective data. But a topic that hasn't really come up, and I would have thought perhaps that it may have been aligned to the technology discussions, is around the gig economy, which, of course, speaks into the third area of globalization, which allows individuals to trade with individuals and opens up tremendous economic opportunity for rural areas. So specifically looking at things like art and craft and opening up e-commerce platforms to enable people to sell what they're making to a customer base, which is now all over the world. And of course, there's many examples of this all over the world, but I feel like in South Africa, it's not really enough of an emphasis that's put on that. And enabling women specifically in rural areas to learn how to leverage the gig economy. So I think that should be an agenda item that both creates opportunity, it puts food on the table, it also enables people to upskill themselves. I've recently worked with a client that were desperate looking for people with different language skills, specifically vernacular language, and they didn't need people with any tertiary education. The opportunity was there for anyone to help tag and classify online linguistic programs because of the need to build technology for different languages as we're moving to the world of voice. So that's just one example, which I think is really important to look at the gig economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Jessie.
I wanted to say that I think entrepreneurship is part of our curriculum, needs to come in. A lot of the education that has come has been education to be employed by somebody. We need to start thinking of how to make our young women and women, girls, children, to be employing themselves, to actually make entrepreneurship a goal so they don't have to wait for someone. The second issue I was concerned about is, I think it's very true that we need to be savvy and know how to use internet. But we should also help our members of parliament to be careful of the footprints that they are leaving on the internet. Sometimes we see ourselves actually scoring on goals where we get, pictures that are very compromising and can be used against you during campaigns and all of that. I think women caucuses also need to really build capacity so that we do not see women being not irresponsible, but not giving the ball to the opposition on your own, where you find yourself in a picture which tomorrow they splash and say, does this look like a leader? And you did it on your own. We need to be very responsible on the footprints that we leave, because one thing with the internet, once it is out there, you cannot erase it. Finally, I think there's an urgent need to link innovation with youth and young women intentionally, because the interest rates out there do not encourage the youth, especially young women, to participate in entrepreneurship. We need to make sure that there are programs. And honestly, I know it's frustrating. I've been in the trenches for long, but women's empowerment is not an event, it's a process. It's gonna be long, and we have to be prepared to be in the long haul. And it doesn't mean when fruits are not coming, we're not doing the right thing. It just means, actually, that we are taking the game there. And patriarchy mutates, it evolves, it will keep coming at us. Ours is not to stop. A successful person, it's not that you don't fall, but you get up every time you fall. And that's what women are. We continue getting up, no matter what they throw at us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jessie. The vibrant keynote speaker who has just sat down is actually an ardent academic. Some of us knew her while she was part of the Council of Social Sciences of Africa, CODESRIA. And she was one of those people who was very critical about what government is not doing and what government is not doing, until she decided that, you know what, you can't change it from outside, I'm going to run for the elections. And yes, she is. She's now a member of parliament. She's still spitting fire as I knew her in CODESRIA. But thank you very much, colleagues. I know it has been a long day. For the South African delegation who met yesterday and deliberated as the various caucuses and CWP chapters of the provinces and National Assembly, we will give the input tomorrow because it fits on tomorrow's program on what the legislatures must do. So don't think your meeting yesterday was in vain. It was important. It allowed you space to engage also amongst yourself. We'd like to thank you for really being a good audience, having engaged, a very vibrant, even after lunch. We will be leaving here. The buses and the shuttles are already in front of the old assembly, so when we go out here and go out to the terrace, we'll find the transport there, which will take all of us to Cape San, where we will have a banquet. We actually thought it would be time-consuming to take members of parliament to their villages and back. So we will all go to enjoy ourselves and have a little bit of music and a bit of networking during dinner. Once again, thank you very much, honorable members. We start here at 9 tomorrow morning. Meeting is adjourned.